Hello, my friends, and welcome to another review. And of course, you know me, I'm Izzy. And this one is about a series that I completed not too long ago. And it's called Seiseshi Dunbine, otherwise known as Aura Battler Dunbine. This series is rather old. We're talking about like the 80s old. Like 1983 to be precise. It is 49 episodes long and it spans the course of 6 days. And like I said, I managed to watch all this within, like, say, a couple of weekends ago. And I'll just read what it says on the back here. From the acclaimed creator of the Mobile Suit Gundam series comes the wildest fantasy adventure ever. Traveling through a transdimensional aura highway, Shozama finds himself trapped in the mysterious world of Bystone Well. Burnings and his reluctant recruits pilot mind-control mecha known as Aura Battlers. Relationships of love and hate develop amidst a brutal, unfolding civil war. Complex levels of treachery transforms royals such as Drake Luft and Bishop Hate into a mob of backstabbing despots. I've been doing a lot of auditions lately, so I kind of like, it's just been crazy. Anyway, this show, having been made by Yoshiyuki Kill'em-all Tomino, is nothing short of what it really is. It basically is almost a kill-em-all because it basically did this. It spawned 2 sequel series right after this series. There's Aura Battler Dunbine. There's new story of Aura Battler Dunbine, and then there's another one which some know as Garzy's Wing, or the new Tales of Bystone Well. They're all connected, so therefore, if you ever talk about Garzy's Wing, remember where it came from: Aura Battler Dunbine. And I studied this before, but to me, when I was watching it, another series came to mind, and that's Final Fantasy. Just imagine for a moment if there's a Final Fantasy made by Yoshiyuki Tomino. It basically does fit the theme song, which is dubbed as Aura Road, but it's really called Dunbine Tobu. Dunbine Tobu. And for what it's worth, it's like the theme song actually fits the whole theme of what the anime is about. Basically, it's a war. Now, what I find funny is, if you were to actually look at the opening actually just does the following. It gradually moves itself forward. Like, for instance, it starts off with Dunbine, Shell and his team versus Drake Luft and his party, because that's all it's really been about. And that's like season 1, and then season 2, we get the new one. We get the new Aura Battler, which is Turbine. And Turbine is it is basically stronger than Dunbine. And what happens is Show takes Turbine while Marvel takes Dunbine. It is nothing short of amazing as far as the imagination was being put into all this. Like I said, it reminds me of, say, if Final Fantasy IV, because the only thing I can picture is Final Fantasy IV. Final Fantasy IV with mechs. That's how I saw it. Like, if Final Fantasy IV went this direction, to where it went to where you be fighting in mechs, it sort of be like that. I also thought about my book too, because my book is set in a medieval sci-fi world, to where, yeah, you would see something like this. And what I call the mechs in that world, Musha. In which I based off the game. So therefore I just called it what it was. But they're called warriors. So knights riding in warriors. Warrior mechs. So call them Musha. Now, what I find interesting about this series is that from the get-go, that's all it's been about. It's just like, it was an accident waiting to happen. That's all you can picture. This whole anime from start to finish, an accident waiting to happen. Starting with showing just being flung through the R Road into Byston Well. He's trying to make heads and tails about why he's here and who is basically friend from foe. In the sense that it does have a Gundam flavor to it. Basically, I'm looking at this. The side that Show allies himself with are with the following people. You have Neil Given. The Japanese version is Ni, so it's Neil. Neil Given, King Kiss, Marvel Frozen, along with the crew of the Zalera, and later on a pair of new type princesses. I look at Neil and I see a very young version of Bright Noah. And he does exactly the same thing as Bright Noah does, which he's trying to be the captain at the same time. It's like, he doesn't want to do any wrong, but the thing is, you're a captain. You're gonna have to show a firm hand. And even his one-time love interest, Emily Luft, shows up on the Zalera, and all of a sudden she's a constant fuck up until he just says, "Look, that's it. Just there it is." He just does this one time. That's it. Straightens her ass out. But the thing is, that's like one of the most almost damn near useless characters ever known. The fairy, as you can see here, is Cham Hua, who basically is the Mi Ferrario, or the fairy. That's what they call it in the series, the Mi Ferrario. The Mi Ferrario, or the fairies in this series, are basically the inhabitants of Bystonewell, the true inhabitants of Bystonewell. and they are basically like they show comfort and basically moral support. They are basically just there for basically Chum is basically there for moral support for a show because he goes through a lot. So technically, between him and between him and Marvel, it's sort of like there's something going on. It almost feels like Lunar with Ruby and Hero. Like she's providing moral support, but it's like there's some banter going on. That normal kind of banter you would normally see in fantasy RPGs like Lunar. Excuse me, long day. You would see usual banter like that, like say Lunar and like, but otherwise, it's not really a bad series. So the whole plot basically revolves around by Stonewall, with both sides going at each other's throats. Neo basically wants to take out Drake because he is a great evil to the land of Bystonwell. This goes on between like like a Gundam series, like an old school Gundam series. So, like I said, if Neil Gaiman acts like Bright Noah, then the role of Amuro will be played by Shozama. Or in this case, he'll be like a cross between Amuro Ray and Seabrook Arnold. So mind you, we got Classic Gundam and F91. So therefore, we got RX-78 and F91 basically rolling in one. He just wouldn't be like how Amuro started, but he would have the know-how of Seabrook Arnold with the naivete of Amuro. And Marvel would be this world's version of Sailor Mars. Because if you remember, Amuro and Sailor have a thing together in the novel. Not so much in the anime, but the novel plays itself out to where, they do get together. Go read the novel. It's worth checking out for yourself. I guess King would be like Mirai, because it sure as hell ain't Emily. Emily was just kept dicking around, and she kept being stupid. She's trying to prove. I'm like, you can't prove shit if you're gonna be constantly dicking around on ship and you're not doing much of anything. She tries to pilot a mech. She tries piloting a foe, which is basically a carrier. She couldn't do that right. I'm like, okay, whatever you're trying to do, she's trying to move around, she's trying to do this, she's trying to prove herself. Girl, as much as she's trying, she is very much on Aqua levels of uselessness. Because even at the during the second season, or rather I look at it like it's in two seasons, because one is with Dunbine, the other's with Turbine, which is the second season mech. So therefore, it does show it off, which which really, you don't really see that with many shows, rather mech shows. Sorry if I'm stumbling a bit, but you know, I'm trying to explain this as best I can. You're trying to, what you don't see is transition between mechs. Like, you really don't see that in various mech shows. This one, I could say, was probably the only one I've seen that actually showed the transition between season 1 mech to a season 2 mech. And not only that, but the season 1, the season teams going into another season 2 team. So another person I like to bring up to the table is Baron Burnings. He's just straight up Char. Because he even does the same thing that Char did in Zeta Gundam, which is take up a different name. Quattro Regina. Second season, he takes up a moniker. And he's still doing the same thing, except it's more like, okay, they used to be allies, now they're enemies. They're clashing with each other. And then, we'll get to the second half. That's when everything goes completely off the rails. Okay, a door opens up, they go back to the upper world. Upper Earth, they call it. So it's like, okay, you're going to the overworld. And Byston is the underworld. So you got the overworld and the underworld. So therefore, their war escalates to the overworld. People on Earth they're skeptical at first until they see it happening. Like, I can't explain, but, you know, it starts with Sho arriving back where he lived. Then he goes back to Byston Well. And then once they figure out he could do that, then they figure out he could do it. But of course, it happens by accident. And like I said, there are two princesses on their side which act like new types. The first one is Elle, and she acts and looks strangely like Haman Karn from Double Zeta. And I think that's where they got the idea from. That's where they got the character design. They basically got it from her. To which she basically is like the strongest new type ever. And like I said, it is one of the most interesting series I've ever seen as far as what Tomino's made. I forgot what the second princess is. But as I said, they're both new types. I'm gonna look that up. Yeah, give me 2 seconds here. Because that's gonna bug me to know if I don't remember who the second princess on Neil's side is. 2 seconds here. Yeah, the second one is Celia Lapana, which she was found in a different part of Byston. So you have Elhum and Celia Lapana. And like I said, both of them are the 2 new type princesses that's on the side of Neil Given. And they want to do the same thing that Neil wants, which is basically get rid of Drake because he's quote unquote the evil of this world. So the thing at the very end of the series, it basically goes into straight Tomino fashion. To where the cast save Chum is quote unquote purified. So I think that was like a nod to Ideon, because that's how it ended on Ideon. It's like the whole cast just basically blew itself up. I mean, it was terrible, but I mean, it really is, like what I said, there was just basically a lot of backstabbing, a lot of treachery. There was a lot of stuff that was happening, and basically, it kept going on and on and on. So even at its slow times, the pacing just kept going, which I liked about the series. If a series that old had that much pacing going on, it's a good series. I kid you not. It's a good series. For what it was worth in watching this, and, you know, I started watching another series, which I thought I had Tech Command Space Knight, but I don't. I actually have a series called Robot Hunter Kashan. And I'll cover that in a different review. I don't know why they pronounce it as Kashan. It's pronounced Kashan, even though Japanese is Kashin. But I will cover that when I'm going through more of the series. I've only started watching it, so it's like I'm 5 episodes in on that. But Dunbine has made its presence felt in the SRW universe. And what I'm still playing right now is Cross. And it's one of the few games that actually do have Dunbine as a playable unit. There's also Terra, which I believe covers Dunbine's story. It's like across, you basically have a lot of characters going on, and most of their stories are like the following. The main being Mashinhiro Wataru with dealing with the Dokura Army and finding the 7 treasures of Mount Sokai. Then you have the secondary story, which is the Mitsurugi Empire, and that's happening with Buddy Complex, and of course all the real robot teams like Gundam and Buddy Complex, and they're all in there. Even Lelouch, Kogias, Lelouch of the Rebellion R2. They're all in that set, as well as the classics like Wataru, Dunbine, Daitan 3, Mazing Kaiser, aka with Mazinger Z, the Impact, and Maitagain, and even more, Nadia Secret of Blue Water, and Tengen Toppa Gui Nagan. They're all in that. In Cross, what I'm playing, and I'm just about done with it. I'm on like stage 41. That's that's Gurren Lagann. So I am nearly done with that. Moving on, like I said, back to Dunbine. Dunbine is one of those series that basically you blink, you miss it. And you can actually get this, SentaiFilmWorks.com, that's where you can find this series. I've actually gotten like 3 3 or 4 series, I believe. One is this, Kashan, and Cobra the Animation. I think the last series I actually got for myself was Nadia Secret Blue Wire, and I need to watch that series because besides playing the game over, yeah, I eventually will get back to doing that, probably next week. Now, whether I have the crew with me or not, if they're with me for, say, however long I'm going to play it. Possibly I'm going to do the rest of the second stage and get into the third stage and probably stop at the third stage. I don't know how it's going to work, but there it is. Aside from that, I think this constitutes as a series that is worth seeing for yourself, and it's old school. Old school is finest. Now, if you want to go take it a step further, you might want to see the new story of our Battler Dunbine, or the new Tales of Bystonwell, as they call it. And if you want to take it a step deeper, Garzy's Wing. I've heard tales about Garzy's Wing being a terrible anime or a terrible OVA or whatever, probably because of the dub. But look beyond that, and I'm pretty sure if you look beyond the fact that, you know, it was an old anime. And they basically got, you know, people that were basically no names, and, you know, that's how they got into the business. They're no names, and they got into the business just by doing little projects like that. So y'all can't. So those who say this is a terrible, like, you can't think like that. You have to think, well, back in those days, they had to do what they had to do. It's like they, you know, if they needed a dub voice, and, you know, they didn't have the master copy on hand. And even if they did, they would have to basically do the same thing like what they're doing now. You have to listen to the Japanese voice first, and then you have to find someone who can somehow do the Japanese voice, or sound equivalent to the Japanese voice. Like, anybody could do a Mickey Mouse. Anybody could do a Yosemite Sam. You know, anybody could do any kind of voice that you can think of, but it just takes a bit of talent just to, like, really just make that person listen to your voice. But as I stated before, if you really want to see this series in full, then I suggest you start by saying Our Battler Dunbine first, then its sequel, and then after that, Garzy's Wing. Because there's only been 3 series in total. I might consider watching Garzy's Wing on my own time, just for the sake of it, because it's like an OVA, so OVAs don't last that long. And same with new story of Bystonwell, or new story of Our Battler Dunbine, as it's properly called. But it's worth checking out, and I for one recommend, if you've never seen this series, go check it out. Because it might be, you might check Crunchyroll. It might be on Crunchyroll. If not that, go to SentaiFilmworks.com and get it for yourself. If they don't have it on YouTube, that is. But, you know, just like friends suggest I try out certain anime that they've watched. Well, try some of the bit of stuff I watch. Most of the stuff I watch is like older than me. And yet I miss out on the good stuff way back when. So hey, I'm just catching up to good times. Anyway, next review will be that of Robot Hunter Kashan, done by Tatsunoko. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you next time with more great content. Until then, I've been your friendly neighborhood Tenkaichi, and I am out.